Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be discussing Bob Clark's 1974 classic, Black Christmas. Let's get into it. Black Christmas is a 1974 film starring Olivia Hussey, Margot Kidder, and John Saxon. So Black Christmas tells the story of a group of sorority girls preparing for the holidays when one of them turns up missing. While trying to find her, they begin to receive ominous phone calls from what they believe is just a prankster. But as things begin to unravel, they realize pretty quickly it's not a prankster after all, and it becomes a fight for survival as this telephone stalker begins picking them off one by one. Sorry for dropping this a day late, guys. My plan was to actually have it drop on Christmas Day, but it just wasn't in the cards, I guess. But here it is. Also, this video will contain some light spoilers, but it's mostly going to be a non-spoiler review. I know the movie is almost 50 years old, and normally I would say that any movie that old doesn't need a spoiler warning, but it also doesn't have the same pop culture status as like Halloween or Nightmare on Elm Street or Scream, and there's still a bunch of horror fans or even new horror fans still finding this movie for the first time, and I don't want to ruin that experience for them, but there will be some spoiler-ish things in this video. So anyways, there's your warning. Let's get into it. So this past month, I've reviewed several Christmas horror films on my channel, including Violent Night, but as they say, you always save the best for last, right? And Black Christmas is the gold standard of Christmas horror, if you ask me. And I'd say there's plenty of horror fans out there that would agree with me on that. So I know that John Carpenter's Halloween 1978 is generally credited for kicking the door open and making slasher movies more mainstream. And while it didn't do it first, it also is the movie that popularized the gimmick of setting slasher movies on or around a holiday. And rightfully so, it was a huge success, both commercially and critically. Naturally, other filmmakers and studios would want to replicate that success. But 4 years before John Carpenter's classic, Bob Clark gave us Black Christmas. And while this film certainly didn't get the mainstream recognition that Halloween got, it is widely regarded by horror fans as being not only one of the greatest slasher films of all time, but one of the greatest horror films of all time. Some would even argue that it was better than Halloween. Not sure I would entirely agree with that, but it's definitely in the same tier. Black Christmas truly transcended its genre. What separates it from other slashers is that it was not just a slasher. It gave you real characters with real emotions and motivations behind their characters. Bob Clark also inserts social commentary, but he does it so seamlessly. The social commentary in it is literally embedded into the DNA of the movie, and it tackles real-life issues, but does it with couth. This movie is proof that social commentary can be woven into your script, and if done right, can actually enhance the movie and serve the plot. Yeah, it's a slasher movie, and if that's all you're looking for, then it's there. But if you're someone who looks for movies with a deeper message, that's also here. It's not hitting you in the face with its message, but it's there if you want it. See, movies don't have to be completely void of a message. In fact, I like it when a good movie has something to say. But you want to make sure you don't sacrifice the entertainment value and rewatchability of your movie in order to get it out there. It needs to be a good movie first and a message second. I'd rather have a good movie with no message than a bad movie with a good message. But if you execute it correctly, you can have a good 1-2 punch that really sticks to landing on both things. And that's what Bob Clark did here. In fact, other filmmakers could really take notes from this movie. This movie is also the perfect example of a slow burn done right. It's the perfect template on building tension and dread, very comparable to Halloween from 1978. As the viewer, you're stuck on the edge of your seat in total suspense because you know Billy is in this house somewhere picking these girls off one by one. But because the movie is taking its time with it, you never know when it's going to be or who it's going to be, and it's completely nerve-wracking. Also, and I don't have any concrete evidence of this, maybe it's out there and I just haven't found it yet, but there's major plot points of this movie involving phone calls from our killer Billy that are, in my mind anyways, clearly earlier prototypes of what would later be used in films like When a Stranger Calls and Scream. In fact, there's one scene in particular where a police officer calls Jess, who is our main final girl of this film, and tells her that the calls are coming from in the house and she needs to get out of there right now. And this one scene in particular is so on the nose that there's no way it didn't inspire the opening of When a Stranger Calls, which would later go on to inspire the opening of Scream. And this scene right here is so bone-chilling to me that even now when I watch this movie, it still gets to me, especially if I'm home alone and it's dark and I'm watching this movie by myself, which is exactly how I watched it the other day when I watched it to prepare for this review. And I especially love how gritty this movie feels. Bob Clark didn't make this a real polished movie, and one could say that's just a side effect of a smaller budget, but to me it really seems like it was a deliberate choice when you watch the movie. He wanted it to feel like Christmas, of course, with the aesthetic, which he nails, by the way, but he also wanted it to feel dark and gritty and almost claustrophobic, like you're right here with these girls in the sorority. Especially toward the end when it's finally revealed to Jess that Billy's been in the house this whole time. And what makes this feel even more impressive to me is that we, the audience, have known he's in the house the entire time. And even though it's not news to us as the viewer, it still increases that sense of danger and claustrophobia. It's kind of like the movie equivalent of literally telling somebody that you're about to punch them and them still not being able to stop it.
What's wrong?
Please, Miss Bradford, please just do as I tell you.
Okay.
I'll get Phil involved.
No, don't do that, Jess. Jess, the caller is in the house.
The calls are coming from the house.
Jess!
Jeff, get out!
And so it doesn't matter that they advertised it, because obviously when you're watching the movie, you know it's going to be revealed at some point, but it doesn't make it any less effective when it actually finally happens. And being able to pull that off is the trait of a great filmmaker, and Bob Clark truly is a great filmmaker. And if I had to give any negatives for this movie, I guess it would be that it does sort of drag a little bit at the end, but never to the point that you're hating yourself for watching it or getting bored, and it never gets stale. But I could certainly see where some people might think that it could have wrapped up a little quicker. But honestly, that's all I've got for negatives, guys. This movie truly is a masterpiece, both in horror and Christmas films. And for a rating, I'm giving it a 9.5. I almost gave it a perfect 10, guys, I really did. But if you give a movie a 10 out of 10, you're saying it's a perfect movie. And I don't want to be someone who just throws that rating around all over the place. And even though I think this is a great movie that executes certain things perfectly, I still wouldn't quite say it's a perfect movie. Plus, a lot of the movies I give a perfect score to have some sort of nostalgia attached to them. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. And I just couldn't justify giving it to this movie. Maybe later on in life, I'll feel differently about it, and I will give it a 10, and if that day comes, I will absolutely update you guys. But for now, it's sitting here comfortably at a 9.5, which is still a very solid and respectable rating. But that's it for this one, guys. Let me know what you thought of Black Christmas. Did you agree with anything I said? Did you disagree with anything I said? Let me know down in the comments section or find me on one of my socials, which are posted in the descriptions of all my videos. But in the meantime, like and share this video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.